Hi, it's Heidi here, one of the pastors at Active Church, and I am so glad you're back tonight for the last night of this connection group. The series is called 4-Letter Words. The 4-letter word we're talking about tonight is fear, and here's Pastor Josh and Pastor Mike who are going to unpack it for you.
The word that we're looking at in our group is the word fear. It's a word that I think that we've heard throughout our culture, and just a side note, little nugget about me. I'm afraid of heights.
Really?
I can't do heights. I went skydiving years ago, and I can't believe I even did that. But fear is a word that makes my heart beat a little bit quicker.
Is it bad that my thoughts go to I wish we were at the green screen and cue the high.
That'd be fine,
it's
because I'm not falling. That would be a good thing. Can you define this word for us?
Yeah. So I think kind of like you're talking about, often we'll talk about fear in terms of phobias, these different things that we're afraid of. But in essence, fear seems to be the easy way out of circumstances. Right?
Yeah. So where would we find this idea in the scriptures?
Yeah, there's actually a story in Acts, I believe it is chapter 16 and verse 16. Two characters that the story follows is Paul and Silas. So in this story, Paul and Silas are these two guys who are preaching the gospel in their community. And as they're doing this, there's this really weird part of this girl who begins to follow them. And she was actually part of a family of magistrates, which basically means they owned a lot of the properties of their time. And they would actually use this girl to fortune tell and to make more money. And so she begins to follow Paul and Silas around as they're speaking, saying that these are men of God. They're saying the right things. They're doing all the right things. And at one point, Paul just kind of gets upset of having this person follow him. And what he says to her, which is very telling of the circumstance of the story, is he asks that the demon inside of her to leave, to be cast out. And when this happens, the parents or magistrates of this girl actually get angry because they know that they're about to lose a big source of their income, the fortune telling of this girl. And so they end up sending Paul and Silas to jail. And so Paul and Silas are now in prison, and this could be their opportunity to perhaps be afraid or to feel the tension or to feel the stress of being in this moment. But something unique about them is that they actually begin to pray and they begin to worship in this moment. And then the story finishes off by saying that there's actually an earthquake that happens. And the earthquake happens, the doors are swung open, their shackles fall off. Paul and Silas walk out and they actually see the jailer about to die by suicide, and they actually stop him. They tell him, don't do it. We're here. The jailer was afraid that maybe if the prisoners escaped that he would be perhaps put to death. But for whatever reason, Paul and Silas stopped their enemy from doing this.
So you defined fear at the beginning of this conversation as choosing the easy way out. So where in this story did Paul and Silas not do that and actually lean in with confidence?
Right, because in the story, there's actually a couple of circumstances where they could have taken the easy way out. So one of them being, first, this demon-possessed girl that was following them around. Fear would have probably said, hey, let's relocate, let's get out of here. But actually, Paul and Silas speak into that moment with confidence and claim, hey, in the name of Jesus, you've got to get out of here. So fear, the easy way out would have been for them to leave. But in this moment, confidence demands of Paul and Silas to claim the name of Jesus. Another circumstance in which they could have taken the easy way out is when they were in prison, when they were in jail. They could have actually allowed that moment to become the stressful, tension, and defining moment of their lives. They could have actually felt the burden of being in jail, but for whatever reason, they choose to actually pray and to worship in that moment. Again, I think this is a story and a telling about confidence in Jesus. And last, this earthquake happens. That could have also been a moment for fear. The prison guard is about to take his life. And that could have been a moment of opportunity for Paul and Silas to leave and to let him do it. I mean, this is a moment where their enemy, in a sense, is about to take his life. But instead of Paul and Silas allowing that, instead of them taking the easy way out, they actually stop the prison guard from doing that because they believe that he's not their enemy.
Yeah.
They see his identity as a child of God.
Yeah.
The beauty of this story is that the prison guard actually goes on to learn more about Jesus and to be baptized. And you fast forward in the story, and Paul and Silas are actually at his house, and they're having dinner with him and his whole family.
Wow. So speaking of fast forwarding in this story, the very next scene is actually really significant because where the jailer is about to take his life and they stop him is not the end of the story. Can you tell us what happens next?
Yeah, so the end of the story is actually the Roman guards showing up to this prisoner, the prison guard's house, to talk to Paul and Silas. And basically what they were going to do was apologize to them for what had happened because they saw that they were kind of these men of integrity. They didn't run away from the prison, but actually chose to stick around and to help out the prison guard. And so they're about to tell them like, hey, secretly, we're just going to let you guys go. And then Paul and Silas kind of flip the page and say, hey, just so you know, we're Roman citizens. And in this time, when you were a Roman citizen, you actually had to have a public trial before you could be beaten or sent to jail.
Right.
And it's almost like Paul and Silas held on to this card that they had, this way out of this whole circumstance, this whole story. They could have solved it from in the beginning saying, hey, we're Roman citizens.
Right.
But they choose to tell the story of Jesus first.
Wow.
They tell the story of Jesus first in the life of this girl, in the earthquake, in the prison, to the prison guard. And after all of it has happened, after the gospel has been told, it's then at the end that they say, and we're also Roman citizens.
So they prioritize the gospel message. And what would have happened if they decided to prioritize their own fears? I mean, that prison guard would not be alive.
Right.
Those Roman guards may have not known Jesus. You already mentioned that there was a life change that took place later on. So fear is really choosing the easy way out, but they leaned into their faith and their confidence in Jesus to prioritize the story of Jesus.
Yeah, and they lean into their identity, right? And they see it. They see it in everybody else around them.
Yeah. Powerful. Thank you, Josh. That's great.
Of course.
We're going to spend a few moments now in group talking through some questions. We want to encourage you to have a lively conversation, pray for each other, encourage one another. Those questions are going to come up on the screen. Thanks for joining us for week 4 of 4-letter words.